What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of LaLiga Insiders. Gemma Soler, Rodrigo Faiz. I'm Christina Alexander, breaking down what happened La Liga this weekend after a little break because of the Supercopa, the Copa del Rey. But we're back and in full swing. Let's take a look at the menu of the day so you guys can stick around and get a taste of what we're going to talk about today. Real Madrid is back, at least with the 3 points. Barcelona gets the job done. Barely, but it was done. And what's new with our insiders, of course, always great information from both of you, and a little bit of extra time with a little bit of extra controversy there. You guys will see why in just a little bit. But let's start off with the results from this weekend after what we just mentioned. Real Madrid is back, but Barcelona is still there with 44 points, still 3 clear of Real Madrid, who got the job done at San Mamés, and in third place, Real Sociedad still chasing. Not too far away from Madrid. It's still an interesting title race. Atletico de Madrid is trying to get back as well, by the way, with 31 points, but still 13 clear from Barcelona. Enough with the math. Let's get right to what we saw on the pitch this weekend, starting with Real Madrid, of course, and that 2-0 victory. We know, of course, when they visit Athletic Club, it's always a little bit complicated for them. Rodri, what was the key to Ancelotti and company's victory this time around?
Hi, Chris. What a week for Real Madrid, where, when everyone expected Real Madrid to lose against Villarreal in Copa del Rey and to lose in San Mamés, such a difficult stadium always for Real Madrid, suddenly Real Madrid won the past 2 games. And for me, the key of that last night win, for me is they performance as a block. They together they attacked, and they together they defended. And even on defense they still have those problems, and they're struggling a lot. If you compare this season of Real Madrid, and if you compare that defense of this season to last year when Real Madrid was almost unbeatable in La Liga. That's why I think that win at San Mamés is even more special for Real Madrid, because they didn't expect to get that result 0-2 for Real Madrid in a game that again proved that Real Madrid need to improve a little bit on defense, because you got Courtois, who is still the number 1 at his position as a goalkeeper, but still you have Militao, which is not bad, but it's not the same than last year. But the rest is a mess sometimes. When you got Mendy, Nacho, I think he was playing as right back last night, and I think he did a great performance. But still, if you are back in Real Madrid, you need something else to defend, and you need a better performance for all the players, and you need to get back people like, for example, Alaba or whatever. But you need something else on defense, because if not, you're going to struggle a lot in the next weeks, because you're going to face Real Sociedad home. That is going to be a really tough game, and then you're going to face Liverpool at the Champions League. I think it was a great performance for Real Madrid in general, but still they need to be on the way to be back as last year.
Yeah, and that's an interesting ask for them. I don't want to necessarily say a tough ask, because like you just said, Rodrigo, people expected them to lose in Copa del Rey. They didn't. They came back, and that's just what Real Madrid is also comfortable with. Gemma, as you know, against all odds, they kind of like feeling uncomfortable to kind of get back to where they are. But do you agree that we're not seeing necessarily 100% confidence, or the Real Madrid that we're used to seeing like last year?
Yes, definitely, and I think it couldn't be any other way like this one, because what we saw in the final of the Supercopa, the Spanish Supercopa, it was one of the worst versions of Real Madrid in the late years. So I think you cannot turn around upside down so quickly. So necessarily the team needs to grow, and I think it was important that impressive came back in Copa del Rey in La Cerámica to be able to get that energy. And I think Ancelotti did good, trying to give credit to the ones that made that possible, Ceballos, Nacho, and continuing the block, Camavinga as well. And I think he managed to, as you were mentioning, Christina, San Mamés, it's always that kind of trip that it's marked on red, because it's going to be very difficult to get there the 3 points. So he managed that. he rejuvenated the team, especially the midfield, something that he's been missing, and he was able to get 3 points without Modric and Kroos in the start. So I think that's important. We are not seeing, I agree with Rodri, the best version of Real Madrid. They were lucky because Athletic Club got 18, so that means you haven't done your homework on defense. But on the other side, Courtois is at his best. I agree that he's not the best, one of the best goalkeepers right now. And I don't know, I think they managed to change the energy, and this can be positive talking into the near future.
Absolutely. Going forward with the calendar, of course, that Rodri also mentioned, it's important to get these kind of not only literal points on the table, but points to your favor confidence-wise with what's ahead. Gemma, you just mentioned what Ancelotti said about his players. Let's take a listen to the head coach, and we'll keep talking.
Creo que el análisis que hemos hecho cuando los partidos no salían bien era un análisis bastante correcta, no se defendía bien. Hoy hemos defendido bien, sufrido, sí, porque hay que sufrir. Eso, sobre todo aquí, Athletic Bilbao es un equipo muy bueno, que tiene una intensidad muy alta en el partido. El hecho que hemos marcado bastante pronto nos ha ayudado a tener un bloque compacto, pero el equipo ha tenido un compromiso colectivo que nunca ha tenido en los últimos partidos.
What Ancelotti said about scoring early and how important that was, Rodri, because as we know, and speaking of the Real Madrid last year, was a team that showed up more maybe in the second half than in the first half. So do you see an improvement at least from Madrid this season with that scoring early? And of course, in this case, they scored early and scored late.
Yeah, for me that was really important because when I was watching the game, you're playing in Bilbao. It's something always is really tough and difficult because of the pressure of the stands and how Athletic Bilbao always plays, because they make the rival struggle a lot. So that is why when Real Madrid scored, I was like, well, this is a great step for Real Madrid, almost to be a bit more self-confidence, which is something that I didn't see before on Real Madrid, at least in these first games of 2023, because the Real Madrid that we saw at the Spanish Super Cup in Saudi Arabia, or the Real Madrid that we saw in Valladolid, in the last game of last year, it was a Real Madrid that they wanted to do some things, but they weren't able to do some things. So that is why, for me, that is, last night's game was that important for Real Madrid. They performance as one, as a block, and that collective commitment that Ancelotti was talking about, for me, is the key for Real Madrid now at the moment, because it was the key for last year's succeed at Madrid. That is why they won the league, that is why they won the Champions League, and that is why that is what makes them even bigger and stronger than the rest of the rivals. But at the same time, if you don't have that commitment to attack or to defend, you're gonna lose a lot of games. And we've seen this year Real Madrid losing a lot of games because of that, because there was a lack of commitment back, and there was a lack of commitment defending in some other lines like strikers or even midfielders. But when you attack as one and when you play as one, you get results.
Yeah, and they did get the result this weekend, and that's why we just heard Ancelotti talk about that commitment. Is that something that they're able to keep up, Gemma, enough not only to still be behind Barcelona, but eventually surpass him and maybe repeat that title?
Yes, that's the main goal. I think they are already starting to think about Liverpool and getting ready for that difficult tie they have in the middle of February. That's what they want to do, and I think Carlo Ancelotti, different than the other season, he has realized that he needs more players. This is an exceptional year with the World Cup in the middle. Last year, he was almost using 11, 12, 13 players all the games, and that was enough for them to get on the. He was lucky enough to have the physicality during the whole season, and he managed to do that. The difference this year is that he somehow realized that this might not be enough. He's struggling, especially in the midfield, having that powerful engine machine that used to be, and I think that's why he's trying to sign in his own squad new players that can have, as you were mentioning, that motivation, that physicality, that strength to be able to do that, to keep on. I mean, it's only 3 points. They have Barcelona. That's something that you can easily do with La Liga being still so many match days to go. So that's the main goal, to be able to get that difference and be there in the leading La Liga, the chart.
Yeah, they still have so many opportunities. If this was any other team that we'd be talking about, I would probably have a little bit of a doubt, but it's Real Madrid. We can't say that they're out until they are truly officially out. But let's switch to another team now, Barcelona. They're up top still after taking advantage, of the fact that Real Madrid lost. They had the victory. They are now 3 points clear in first place. They beat Getafe. Another goal, of course, from Pedri. A fantastic assist from Rafinha. But, and it is a big one, Gemma, how convinced were you from this victory of Xavi's side?
Convinced, I don't think it's the word. I might say bored. I think I have to confess that.
You're convinced that you were bored by this game.
I was. It was a tough game to watch, and I witnessed it there just behind Ter Stegen, which is something very interesting to always watch, listen. It was boring, especially that second half. In the first half, we had some ingredients interesting, and it was an entertaining pre-game, because just before that game, the women's team won the Spanish Super Cup victory, and then there was they showed the Super Cup trophy in the fan base. There was a huge atmosphere, 80,000 spectators. So you could say that maybe it would be interesting. Gavi is at his best, Pedri playing well, but apart from that, and Ter Stegen being at his best again, nothing else. Once again, Barcelona struggled to play against a team who has 5 players in the back. I'm not going to say they parked the bus at the Camp Nou, because they didn't. For sometimes it was the attitude. Quique Sanchez Flores, he wanted to get at least a draw there, and he did everything he could, because they are really struggling to avoid relegation. But Barcelona were on one side unable to be dangerous. They couldn't manage either to avoid counterattacks of Getafe. Ter Stegen had to do 2-3 impressive saves. And once again, when they are leading a match, they are unable to close it, to get the second goal. And they ended up actually asking for the end to the referee and being very cautious. He put on Kessie, and he tried to be very stronger in the midfield to avoid any scare from Getafe.
Yeah, and there were so many one-on-one opportunities from Getafe, as you said, Ter Stegen being, of course, again, a standout for Barcelona. And another thing that stands out, of course, Rodri, and it's something that we've seen before, so much possession from this Barcelona side, 68%, as we just saw, and they only got that 1-0 victory, and they saved themselves from that tie from Getafe that they fought for during the 90 minutes, practically. What worries you the most about this Barcelona side and these kind of statistics?
I'm not worried about Barcelona, and I'm gonna say, when you become victim of your own success, it happens what we saw last night. I mean, people still think around Barcelona that they have Villa, they have Iniesta, they have Xavi, they have Busquets at his best, Puyol, Piqué, and I think that Barcelona has to move on a little bit, and they have to be conscious of what they have now at the moment. I don't think, when you read the presser this morning, you see a lot of critics about Barcelona way of playing last night against such a tough team like Getafe, where you don't have spaces back up there. This is something really hard for Barcelona. We've seen that during all this year, that they struggle a lot when they don't have spaces. And when you see the lineup, you see Pedri and you see Gavi, they're they're so young. You see Ansu Fati, they still have to grow a little bit, and they need time, they need patience, they need some confidence, from the Barca environment, which is something key for this Barca to grow a little bit more. So that is why I'm not worried about what happened last night, because Barcelona has proved during the whole season that they have quality, they have important people enough to face any rival in this season. And the thing that I maybe missed the most last night is that they got the ball possession, but they needed a little bit more of chances. I mean, real chances inside the box to try to shoot, because I think there were like 1 hour or 60 minutes around that they didn't even shot on target, which is something that, would worry me a little bit. Only a little bit, because I think they had the game more or less controlled. But one thing that I missed, it was that chance creation and try to close the game before, because 1-0 is a very dangerous result for a game like, or for a team like Barca.
Yeah, and it's so true what you said about the fact that they are a victim of their own success. And you mentioned all of those key players, and of course they're still getting over this hangover called Lionel Messi and not depending on one player and looking to the kids now, honestly, and these kids now that look like they have a lot of experience too. It's really impressive how they've been able to adapt, just trying to find a little bit more consistency. Speaking of one of those kids, and I feel bad calling them kids because really they have been so impressive, like Pedri, of course. And here's what he had to say after this match. It's clear that we need to learn how to close the games. We're not doing it yet, and it's a pending task. We managed to score the goal, but then we didn't have the ball much, and we lacked the pace to create chances. These 3 points are very important because La Liga is our main objective. We want to continue adding and see what happens at the end of the season. Gemma, what do you think?
Well, that he's very pragmatical and he says what it truly happened. They didn't. This is something I liked in the mixed zone later after the game, that they admitted it was not a good game. Xavi even that sometimes he tried to find, I don't know if it's excuse, but or wants to send a message of support to his players, but he said that he admitted to our camera that they didn't really do a good game, and he was not happy with that, but they were pragmatical. So I think Pedri is doing that. He's 20. He has so much leadership already, and I think he's got pace. I mean, we might not be finding that in Gavi, but for Pedri it is. Sometimes we tend to compare him with Andres Iniesta because with some movements, things he does in the field, it looks like him. He's got his own personality, and I think he is a very disciplined student. At the beginning of the season, Xavi asked him to improve into trying to get more goals. He already has equalized his best record with 5 goals in all competitions, and for sure he's going to be doing it more. And that goal was so important because it was minute 35, and you could feel that the nerves were starting, like, oh no, this is this kind of team that we've been dropping points at the Camp Nou, as we saw in the Catalan derby against Espanyol or against Rayo Vallecano. It's going to be a tough one, and that was a key moment to get that goal, and Pedri was smart enough to create that chance and to be able to manage to get the goal done. So he's such a key player. He was the MVP in the semi-finals of the Spanish Super Cup, and he plays like he's I don't know, 30-something. I mean, he's so wise and so good when playing, and also outside the pitch.
Yeah, he's so smart, and that play is so smart because he takes that half a second chance and creates it into what eventually became these 3 points for Barcelona as well, and just trying to find more experience. But like you said, Gemma, it looks like this is a guy who's been playing for 10 years already. It's really amazing. But Rodri, sticking to Barcelona now, what do they have to do to find that consistency and not only depend on that one goal and holding on to a result for the 3 points?
They gotta keep doing what they did in the first half of the games. I remember Gemma mentioned that Pedri got that MVP for the semifinals for the Super Cup semifinals. I was there with him, and I remember I was talking to him, and he said it again. For the first time ever, he said that we need to close the games because this is something that we're not doing, and we're dropping a lot of points along the season because we don't close those games. So that is why I think that they gotta keep on. They need to be more regular in terms that they have to be constant enough for 90 minutes, not only for 45 minutes, for example, in some games, which is like they think is more than enough, but they are winners, and Pedri is a winner, and we gotta say that he's so young, but he's still a winner, and this is something that I really like. I mean, the kind of self-criticism that they already have, being that young and telling this message to the world. I think this is really interesting in terms that they want more, and they don't want to drop points. They want to win every game, and that is why for me what they need is just try to be like in the first half of the games, because more or less is the Barca that everyone wants to see. But the thing is that it gets to a point in the games when they try to be, maybe, I don't know if because of that self-confidence that they see themselves so superior to the rivals that they are like, okay, this is done. No, this is not done. You gotta score more. You gotta score more goals, which is something that for me is the key of the Barca performance along this season. So that is why for me, if you keep like this for the second half of the games, you're gonna get more goals, you're gonna create more chances, and if you got Lewandowski, he's gonna score for everyone. So.
Yeah, you can relax maybe a little bit at the halftime, but not even a lot. You can relax when the final whistle blows and you got the 3 points in your pocket. But yeah, it's tough to keep that consistency for 90 minutes and mentally speaking as well. But with that, takes us to our insider information. Gemma, I'm going to stick with you and this Barcelona theme now because we have to talk about Gavi. What's been the key to his progress so far?
Yes, so we find out what could be that key of his progress. And this is, he's a teenager, he's 18, he should be at high school. He cannot do that because he's playing Barcelona, but the homework is what is helping him so much. And I'm talking about long video sessions with Xavi to learn when to do things, when to do faults, when to keep pace, when to be patient, when not to get the game crazy. And this is something he was having a lack of experience. Of course, he was 17 years old. He had a lack of experience, but sometimes this was a problem for Barcelona because he's got all that energy that sometimes he cannot control it, and it can also become in yellow cards that conditions him, and also a problem, for example, for Sergio Busquets when he's driving very crazy a game. So we found out that he has been doing a lot of hours. He's the player of the squad who has been having more homework, more video sessions with Xavi Hernandez himself, but also with his team. We've been told that he's not really enjoying that. He loves to play football, but maybe not all that homework, but that he learned and understood that it's something important. He has learned that with that, he's going to be a better player. And for example, he will be enjoying more minutes with Barcelona. Let's remember last season, he wasn't starting all the games. This season, almost all the important games are for Pedri. So he's learning that with that plus that he's learning from that video homework, he's being better and more useful for Xavi and for Barcelona. And that's one of the key of this growth of Gavi is that video, that homework, studying like a kid of his age at the Ciutat Esportiva Joan Gamper.
Yeah, and I think that's a reflection of what Xavi sees in him, right? Not only because their names rhyme with Xavi and Gavi, but of course, maybe he sees something just so special in him and is taking the time, like you said, those long video sessions with him for something. And as of now, we're seeing some of those results on the field, and we'll have to see if we see it now, of course, in the future. Speaking of futures, so let's talk about Real Madrid, and specifically with, of course, Ceballos and Asensio. What's the latest with their contract situation, Rodri?
Well, they have a contract situation very similar because both they finished their contracts to Real Madrid in June. So that is why now they're already free to negotiate with any club in Europe. Talking about Asensio, I think is more important than Ceballos because we've seen this season a different Asensio. He was about to leave Real Madrid last summer, but finally he stayed and he wanted to be more important. And in fact, he's been more important than last year. So that is why Asensio is happy at Real Madrid, and Ancelotti is happy with Asensio at Real Madrid because he is using a lot Asensio, much more than last season. That is why we mentioned before in this La Liga Insiders section that Asensio is expecting Real Madrid to make a first movement in form, in a shape that they're like a renewal offer. He's still waiting for that, which is something rare because we thought that Real Madrid were going to offer this renewal before, but they are still waiting for that. But the thing is that Asensio wants to stay at Real Madrid. In just any given case that Asensio doesn't stay at Real Madrid, there are a lot of clubs really interested on Asensio's future, like for example maybe Arsenal, some English clubs that are following him and monitoring him for the past months, and this is a special situation, but he hopes to renew his contract to Real Madrid. And on the other side we have Dani Ceballos, and this is very strange because we already mentioned that Real Madrid weren't that interested on renew Dani Ceballos, but the thing is that in the last two games against Villarreal and against Athletic de Bilbao, before those games Ancelotti said that Ceballos, he deserved more minutes, and now Ancelotti is giving him more minutes, so that is why he's answering on the pitch that he already deserves even more minutes from now till the end of June. And that is why Real Madrid are expected, okay, let's see what is the evolution of Dani Ceballos in this team now with this new role, playing more minutes. And let's see, because we don't see Ceballos out of Real Madrid yet. So I would say that, he doesn't have a renewal offer on the table, but Real Madrid are going to wait to see his evolution and to see if he's capable enough for Real Madrid level from now to
convincing June. From both sides then. Ceballos needs to see those minutes and Real Madrid needs to see, of course, those minutes really being taken advantage of on the pitch. Let's switch back to someone that we're hoping to see, of course, back on the pitch, because we know that he wasn't in a few games because of, a certain referee. I'm talking about Robert Lewandowski, of course, with Barcelona. Gemma, he's going to have an unpleasant reunion soon?
Oh, yeah, on Wednesday, as soon as that. I'm sure we just found out this earlier today that Gil Manzano, the referee that sent him off on the last game before the World Cup, that game on Osasuna, and put on the referee act, wrote that he was rude with him with that gesture, touching his nose, and this ended up with a 3-match ban that he's still paying off, because let's remember that Cautelar him to play in the Catalan derby, so he still needs one Liga game to pay that suspension. It will be this next weekend in Girona, but he will for sure be playing on Wednesday and this important Copa del Rey game against Real Sociedad, one of the Spanish teams with a better physicality lately, with 9 wins in a row. So he will be there and he will meet again with Gil Manzano. I don't know the reaction of the player, but I was able to talk off the record with Lewandowski the day after that sent off, because it was the day he received the golden shoe, and he was very surprised. I think he was somehow expecting that the peel of Barcelona will end up taking some of matches off and not being so long. He was surprised because he was sure he was making that gesture to Xavi, but at the same time he understood that he did a mistake and he was wanting to learn from this mistake. So I'm sure he will take the chance to work out that situation, to, I don't know if to talk with the referee I'm sure not at the beginning of the game, maybe at the end, but to leave this story like something bad that happened to him, because he did something not on purpose, but ended up being really bad for his team. So it will be an unpleasant reunion that I'm thinking he will be trying to amend what he did on that La Liga game.
Yeah, kind of awkward, right? We know what happened last time we saw each other, and we're here now, so let's just kind of make it water under the bridge situation, have a quick conversation about it, and focus on the task at hand, which of course
Let me just ask
yeah.
Cristina that it's not only Lewandowski that is not very happy with this referee, because he's the referee who has sent off more players of Barcelona. It's his favorite, we can say, team with 10 players sent off. So they are a little bit concerned there at the Camp Nou.
Yeah, famous or infamous Gil Manzano, of course. Yeah, it's a name that really, with the referees, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we see that name and it kind of jumps out for a reason, right? And specifically now with what just happened with Robert Lewandowski, or what just happened, I mean, before the World Cup. Switching back to you, Rodri, and back to Madrid, but with Atletico de Madrid now, because they have their eye on a Turkish footballer. Who are they looking at?
Yeah, they are very interested on Soyuncu. Even they are that interested that they already agreed a deal for the next 3 seasons from June, because he is going to be free by the end of June, so he's free to negotiate with any team that he wants. So that's why Atletico Madrid was monitoring him for the past two seasons, and they are really, delighted by the way he deserved to be Atletico Madrid player. The thing is that, I was having a coffee with one of my Atletico Madrid sources this morning, and he told me that there was a chance for Soyuncu to join Atletico Madrid even before next season, and that chance is quite capable because the guy, he wants to play for Atletico Madrid as soon as possible, which is something great for Atletico Madrid. But there is one obstacle for Atletico Madrid. For the salary gap that they have to face in this winter transfer market, they need to, one player to exit Atletico Madrid so Soyuncu can come to Madrid. And that player is Felipe, the central back that he's negotiating with Everton. That is why maybe if finally Felipe manages to leave Atletico Madrid in this week, Atletico Madrid would say to Leicester, which is the owner of Soyuncu, okay, we're going to pay you X amount of million of euros so we can get Soyuncu here as soon as possible. And that is Cholo Simeone's desire, to have him here as soon as possible, because they need him back on defense, which is something important for the Argentinian coach. Let's see what happens finally with Felipe, but this is a very interesting movement for Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, very interesting, and with that situation that we have to keep our eye on, right? Felipe leaving for that possibility to actually come to fruition. So thanks for that, Rodri. We're going to switch back to you, Gemma, and maybe Barcelona is looking for a substitute, another person up front, because we know they're looking for maybe someone to replace Memphis Depay?
Well, the answer nowadays is no. Let's remember, just before that move, Xavi said, I don't want no one leaving or coming. And eventually, Memphis Depay ended up going to Atletico Madrid because the player himself asked that move, and it was a good operation for Barcelona because he arrived like a free agent and he left with 3 million. So it's good to try to balance that poor books that they have there. Does this mean that the offices of the Camp Nou will be shut down until the 31? No, of course they will be looking at what's on the market, and in case they find something very exciting but especially very cheap, they might be thinking, but that's not the main goal for Barcelona right now. They have a preferred option for Yannick Carrasco. Some sources said that they might be looking to make it now. This will not be happening. And what is more possible is that Ángel Alarcón, this exciting new prospect from the young team, 18 years old, he's a forward from Castelldefels, very near Barcelona. He's able to play in the 3 forward positions. He's tall, and he's fast at the same time. So the probabilities are is that they will be using that money, that 3 million, to renew this player, Angel Alarcón, and also to end up the renewals that they are still pending of Gavi and Araujo. And later last week, some people were talking about Gundogan, some media in Barcelona that was already made. We were able to talk to some sources, not only in Barcelona, but also in Man City, and they say that this is extremely complicated, that to be a done deal, because the player is not in a hurry to sign. He wants to earn money, and this is very difficult because he has market both in the Premier League and the Bundesliga. So for sure he will find a club that can offer more money than Barcelona. So right now the answer, Cristina, to that question is that if there isn't something very exciting and especially very cheap, Barcelona won't be signing forward in this winter market.
Yeah, no more palancas, no more levers maybe for now. I don't know if they can afford it. I'm going to say I don't know, not I don't think, because anything is possible. But yeah, it looks kind of like a pipe dream now, especially when we're talking about someone as talented as Ilkay Gundogan, and of course probably very expensive. Rodri, back with you, because speaking of Premier League players, maybe Ivan Fresneda is headed over there. How important is this week for him?
It's a key week for Ivan Fresneda, who looks like he's going to play to England in the next months. I think it was 3 weeks ago when we said and we mentioned that Ivan Fresneda was looking for a new team, because he wasn't. I mean, all the big clubs in Europe were monitoring him because of his performances in this year's Valladolid. He's making it really, really great. I remember that game against Real Madrid in which he was even much better than Vinicius. He made a great performance, and that performance against Real Madrid made a lot of people at Real Madrid thinking about why they got rid of him before. But the thing is that by that time we said that Newcastle was very well positioned for being the next team of Ivan Fresneda. The thing is that now we turn around a little bit, because Arsenal is now highly interested, and now they equal Newcastle in that race to get Ivan Fresneda in their team. I know that Arteta, is in love with Ivan Fresneda, and I know that Ivan Fresneda's agent was in Arsenal training ground last week. I don't know if that means that he's going to Arsenal, but at least it means that Arsenal is back in the top race with Newcastle and Borussia Dortmund to get Ivan Fresneda, one of the best youngsters of European football, in that right back position. We don't really know what will happen, but talking to my sources at Real Valladolid, they said this morning that his release clause is 30 million euros, but they say that maybe for 15 million euros they will free Ivan Fresneda, depending on the bids from those European clubs. Let's see what happens. Maybe on Thursday we have a final answer, or maybe next week we will have it. But for sure, we are ahead of key days for Ivan Fresneda.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, and to see if Mikel Arteta can have someone that he's had his eye on again with Arsenal. There have been so many movements in the Premier League, as I'm sure you guys have seen, so much money spent. So yeah, anything can happen still with the money that's available there right now. But for now, we're going to leave this insider information to his side. As always, guys, fascinating stuff. We're going to take it to some extra time, and this is something that, of course, we don't like to see. Which is blatant inequalities still when we talk about women's soccer, and especially such a talented team like Barcelona. Listen, if we were still in the middle of the pandemic, I think I would kind of understand this a little bit more, less contact with people. But the Barcelona players had just won the Supercopa, and they had to go and pick up the medals themselves. Gemma, what's your reaction to this?
It's very normal. I mean, it's very following what the Spanish Federation has been treating women's football lately. They always talk out loud. They want to promote the women's football, blah, blah, blah. They do this. They have been doing this. I mean, they try to put a press release saying no, and they try to justify themselves, saying that in the last Copa del Rey they did the same. It's like, okay, that shouldn't be like this. It wasn't like this, definitely in Riyadh for men. But we're talking about a federation that right now there is a World Cup at the middle of this year in August, in July, August in Australia, New Zealand. We're talking one of the most talented teams who has the best players in the world, not only Barcelona, but 15 Spanish players. They are not going to go to the World Cup because they don't agree what the federation has been doing with them, with their team. So there is a double making treatment for women and men. Luis Enrique was sacked to not be successful. The Jorge Vilda has been there for 7 years, haven't got any kind of success having in his team the best players in the world. So for me, it's sad. Watching this, it's very sad, but it's what it is, the women's football in the eyes of the Spanish Federation, very sadly.
Yeah, and Gemma, you said it's normal, and it's the normal that we're seeing because we're used to seeing these kind of actions, and that's why it's so frustrating as well. Rodri, what do you take from this?
I think we now in this section we would be renamed as instead of extra time, sad time, because I mean this proves that the Spanish Federation doesn't really bother a lot about women's football. This is a lack of responsibility, this is a lack of equality, and this is a lack of respect from Real Federación Española de Fútbol to women's football. It looks like, apart from what Jim just said, which I agree with all, it seems like President Rubiales doesn't respect women's football as he should. And I think that, there are so many episodes like this in the past 2, 3, 4 years. We remember that revolution inside women's national team, and after that, nothing happened. Nothing happened with Jorge Vilda when we all know that he's not able enough to manage this new great generation of Spanish women footballers. And, this is another one. And the bad thing of all, and even the sad thing of this, is that this is not going to be the last chapter.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one more. And like Gemma mentioned, of course, we saw that a few months ago. Like I said, if this was a pandemic, fine, I would find an excuse, right? Maybe they want to lessen because we saw on the men's side how they, or even during the Olympics, not to go too far, that they had to pretty much pick up their own medals because of the pandemic situation. But we're not talking about this. This is still inequality, and it's so frustrating that we're still seeing it. And it's not the first time. And like Rodri said, this is not the last time that we're going to see it. And like Gemma, you just mentioned what's coming up this year. It's 2023. And after the boom that women's soccer had during the Euros, it's still so impressive that we're seeing this because Barcelona hasn't only made this time investment like we're seeing, of course, with the success that this club has had, but economically speaking as well, because they've made such important signings as well. And this is the respect, this is the thanks that these hard-working professional footballers get. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but hopefully this is the start of the end of these kind of actions, just to try to stay a little bit hopeful. But with that, we're going to start saying our goodbyes. Gemma, Rodri, thank you so much. As always, I'd like to remind our audience that you can follow these guys on their Twitter for the latest information. And of course, you can catch all of La Liga action on ESPN+. See you soon.